You ever accidentally fall and then rub your nuts against a cheese grater? That's roughly the experience that I had with SMT3 Nocturne, but throughout that entire torment, I had been assured of this mystical, wondrous game called Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. A game that seemingly kept all the stuff I actually did love from SMT3, but removed all the bad elements. So I was chomping at the bit, so once I beat SMT3 Nocturne, I got the true demon ending, I moved on to SMT5 Vengeance that same stream. And the whiplash that I experienced going from one extreme to the other, I think I've fallen in love with SMT5 Vengeance. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming. And the end is where we began, because my first Shin Megami Tensei game not named Persona was actually SMT5 back when it first came out on the Switch. I even have a few videos of my initial playthrough back then. I just never finished it because I became bored of the boss design in the game. It all felt really formulaic and cookie cutter to me. But with SMT5 Vengeance, I had been converted to the press turn system with games like Metaphor ReFantasio and Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. I'd fallen in love with that combat, I had fallen in love with the Shin Megami Tensei aesthetic and tone from SMT3, and I genuinely do believe one of the main reasons I am liking SMT5 so much more than I did when I initially played the vanilla version of the game, now with Vengeance, is because I went through that experience with SMT3. Your favorite food will taste all the more delicious and sweet and savory and just welcoming when you have it the meal after having something that's absolutely rancid. And there's a bunch of small design choices they made with SMT5 that if you start in with SMT5 and you just go in there, you may not appreciate as much as I have been coming from SMT3. And it's this weird experience that I'm having with Shin Megami Tensei, where I'm coming from a game as my initial jumping in point that I genuinely disliked for wide swaths of it, like I did with Nocturne. There are elements of that game that I did love and that I covered on this channel, but for the most part I would say that I genuinely disliked that game for giant chunks of it, but it hooked me in the franchise because I knew Vengeance was awaiting me. And that's the thing with Vengeance. It's kept the combat that I love so much with the press turn system. It's kept that great aesthetic and tone Shin Megami Tensei has with this post-apocalyptic Tokyo hellscape, with demons that are big, bombastic, and colorful characters that populate this world, with a story that isn't as in-depth or character-specific and focused as, say, Persona, but has its own charm to it. So you retain those elements on top of great customization and player expression when it comes in terms of building your team of demons, fusing new ones, and we'll get to systems like that because it's even better in some ways in Vengeance. It removes pretty much every issue that I had with SMT3, barring one exception. What did it change? No more random battles in the overworld. It's no longer a case of me walking 2 steps and then being ganked by 3 waves of enemies. Especially in a game like SMT, where any fight can kill you and pull something out of the proverbial hat to just induce fear and misery into your extreme core. Not having random battles wherever I walk is a godsend. I think the world is more interesting to navigate and explore. Things like the jump button, things like gliding down sand dunes. It's very simple. Any game with sand does that mechanic, but I like it each time I have it. It reminds me of one of my favorite games of all time, Journey. It's just cool. And I'm able to save anywhere. This feature right there, being able to save wherever I want, is the biggest game changer, because so often in SMT3 would I just die to random BS and then be set back 10 to 15 minutes after reprogress through a dungeon that's dull and repetitious and annoying, and that just doesn't happen in SMT5 so long as I remember to save. But at least that one's on me. So if I die to a fight, I can just go right back into the fight and not have to worry about reprogging half a dungeon or anything like that, or be at the whims of when the game wants to give me a save slot. It's so much more up my alley, because SMT5 is a hard game. I played SMT3 on normal mode, and I'm playing Vengeance on hard mode. I'm not doing the Vengeance route, I'm doing the original route because I plan on doing multiple playthroughs of this game. So I want to go in release order. I want to experience the original story, then do Vengeance, and if I'm still really hooked, I'll do another original playthrough with a different ending. That way I get the full experience. And at this point, I won't mind doing that because this game is so dang good. And yeah, I am playing on hard mode, so a lot of these encounters are a bit harder. But dude, Nahobino's awesome. Aramasa, I just hit enemies with 8 light attacks that are physical. What a cool ability to get so early in the game. I got another demon called Mermaid who has a unique skill, which is a really cool concept, which makes demons feel, well, unique. They can just rip a bunch of ice damage on enemies, so when the boss fight is weak to ice, it feels really good. The Magatsui mechanic, I no longer have to wait around, running around mystical chests waiting for the clock in the top left corner to ding over to 8 out of 8 so I can get halfway decent rewards out of the chest and not just like a life stone. That mechanic's gone. It's still there as a clock, but the annoying mechanics surrounding it are gone. The Magatsui gauge in combat is pretty cool because it's pretty much a giant ultimate button. Think of it like a limit break, where depending upon what kind of demons you have in your setup and party, you get different effects that you can choose to activate once the bar fills up. My favorite one right now is the critical one, so every attack I do on that turn just crits, and there's other abilities I can synergize with that idea to unload a bunch of damage. Because my Mermaid brings a passive along, so where I am under that effect, all my attacks that have varying chances to hit a certain amount of times, like say, my ice ability on Mermaid can hit like 3 to 6 times, all those abilities hit for max stacks. Dude, what a great bit of strategy you can invoke here. So it makes those moments feel so impactful and powerful and rewarding. And you pair that alongside the really cool customization this game brings to the table when it comes to party configuration and the Nahobino, who is like your guy. Like the way you played the Demi-Fiend in SMT3, you play as Nahobino here, where your character fuses with his angel guy, and it's just really cool. You find little Memon collectibles. Think of those guys from like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. You collect these guys, you build up a resource called Glory, and then you buy various power-ups to like specialize Nahobino in various ways, or just get a bunch of different power-ups and ways to build up the Magatsui gauge or anything else. It's really dang cool. And then another bit of greatness in terms of customization. One of my favorite elements of SMT3 was the way I could augment my party to specifically cater to what I wanted to bring to the table. I could build my demons in the exact way that I want. I know I couldn't have done that in the original version of SMT3, but in the version I played I could, and I love that element to it. But here, I not only can do that, but I get another system on top of that called Apotheosis, where I can change, depending upon what essences I have collected up to that point in time, I can change the resistances of both Nahobino and my party, or specific demons. And on top of that, I can inherit skills from specific essences that I've acquired to these demons. And the only restriction is that there's some abilities, like my Mermaid's Ice ability, that are unique and cannot be inherited. But everything else is fair game. What a great bit of player expression and customization. And in a game like Shin Megami Tensei with the press turn system, that is all about forming different pairs of demons together to tackle and find a solution to whatever question and puzzle the game throws at you. What a great system and mechanic this turned out to be. This early on, I'm not even that far into SMT5. Let me check Steam. How far am I into this game? Yeah, I'm only 7.6 hours in, but the design choices they made with Vengeance and just SMT5 overall are so great and fun and interesting. There's so much possible depth to this game. So many ways to find a solution to overcome what the game is throwing at you. If the game is able to keep up this pace, I do think this will end up being one of my favorite Atlas games. I am loving Vengeance. Granted, I was liking Nocturne as well until the second half, but I am loving Vengeance so much. I love the various side quests as well, the demon haunt as well. They add so much character and personality to this world by giving you frequent events with various demons to give color and personality to this post-apocalyptic world. So where you still feel as if you're alone in this world, but it still has personality and character and charm. And I love the demon haunt thing, which is like this little hideout you can go talk to your various demons in your party with. And sometimes they give you things. You can talk to Aogami, who's the guy that you fuse with to make the Nahobino. It's a really cool system just to add character to your party. It's nothing much or too in-depth, but it's just right for the style of game in my opinion. And I also will say I am more invested in what's going on here in Vengeance than I was in Nocturne. That's not a slight on Nocturne, I actually quite like the story in Nocturne. It's more of a praise for Vengeance, because it's a newer game, you would hope it would look better, and it does. But just the overall presentation is so dang good in this game. Persona fans will appreciate what I'm about to say. You know when you want to summon or fuse a demon or a persona, sometimes you just have to grab random demons from your compendium just to see what else you can fuse? This game has a mechanic in the demon fusion place where it will just show you all the possibilities, including fusions done with demons in your compendium that aren't in your party. It's simple stuff like that this game is riddled with, where it's like, oh, the goal for this game is to make it a really good game that's not out to waste my time. What a concept. Like, at this point in time, it feels, I know they didn't do this, duh, but it legitimately feels as if they took my complaints with SMT3 Nocturne and what my ideal version of that game would be, and they just made this that. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't know if that opinion and sentiment will hold up as I get further into the game, but right now I am loving this game. I am playing on hard mode, and I am, well, finding out why it's called hard mode, but overcoming the fights in this game is a fun thing to do. I am learning the differences between SMT3 and SMT5. Maybe it'll even out later on as I get some more levels, but agility is way less of a thing here, or at least way less impactful in SMT3. Once I applied a bunch of agility buffs and debuffs, the enemies missed way more often than they actually landed hits. That's not the case in my experience so far with SMT5. Maybe that's because I'm playing on hard mode, or that's just some unique mechanic of SMT5. I have to change up my strategy and my prioritization as a direct result. In SMT5, unlike in SMT3, debuffs and buffs don't just apply AoE and last forever anymore. It's more akin to, say, modern Atlas games, where you have single target, I imagine AoE at some point, but they apply for 3 turns and they can drop if you don't reapply them. That's not inherently a bad thing. I think I prefer the older way of doing it, but that's not inherently a bad thing. It just changes the strategy, changes how I have to interact and figure out solutions to these puzzles. And the bosses already are really dang cool. I fought a giant Hydra guy, and I imagine things will smooth out over time as I level up, acquire more demons, and acquire more essences so I can really configure my setup to each fight specifically. But that initial Hydra fight was a bit of a wall for me on stream, and it took a little bit. But I managed to retool my setup, retool my strategy, and managed to overcome that fight and take it down. And it was a great feeling when it finally fell, because it was a race against the clock. I was likely going to die because the boss had Megatsui. So it was just gonna crit train me until the cows came home with physical attacks, which I couldn't really do anything about. But I had a bunch of damage and all my buffs and debuffs were lined up because I was waiting for the exact moment to strike, and I managed to kill it that turn, and it was a great feeling. So while I couldn't say that I fell in love with Shin Megami Tensei back in 3 with Nocturne, if 5 Vengeance is able to keep this up, which I think it will, because the core of what this game is showing me so far is exactly what I want, I think by the time I am done with even my first playthrough, I'm going to absolutely have fallen in love with Shin Megami Tensei. And I think that is in no small part because of Nocturne. I don't know if I'll ever go back to that game, but it's made me appreciate SMT5 Vengeance all the more, and I think that does matter. It's not just me trying to knock on SMT3 or anything like that, but it was a building block for me. It's another example of what I always talk about when I cover Atlas games. When you look at Atlas games as they release chronologically, you go from one title to the next, and you can see exactly what Atlas deemed to be a good thing and what Atlas deemed to be something that needed to be improved on, iterated, or just flat out removed. Because like everything I was talking about with SMT3 was just implemented with SMT SMT5, and I love it all the more because of that, and I can't wait to play more of it. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games, dream big, leave a comment down below with if you've played SMT before, which one has been your favorite game, what are your thoughts on SMT5 Vengeance, or why haven't you gotten into the franchise yet? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinion, hear your perspective. Stay safe, have a great day, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again!